We want to get to some breaking news we're following here at 5 o'clock as we take these live images from Chopper 6. It's in Olney, the neighborhood of Philadelphia. Reports of a man has now passed away from a shooting.
Mr. Disrespectful himself, YBC Dul, was gunned down today.
I saw a documentary about you that said you're the most hated rapper in Philadelphia. Is that cap?
You know that ain't no fuck.
Does that make you upset at all, or you don't care?
I like that.
Get dirt up. Hey, yo, where the Carney at, yo? Carney, where the you at? Ah!
So YBC Dul, the internet infamous Mr. Disrespect himself, Philadelphia's allegedly most hated rapper, is dead. We can't say that's exactly surprising. I mean, his name is literally Mr. Disrespect, but it doesn't make it any less tragic.
What's up, bro? My man shot him.
So he probably really hates you, yeah?
Bro, it's Mr. Disrespectful. Like, you think aim, he pulled off, right? Or am I wrong?
No, he did pull off.
Oh, word. We outside, bro. What's up?
Now you can say that he had it coming all along, that he and his crew have been on a spree themselves for a long time now. So whatever comes of that is just another day in the business. Frankly, I won't even fault you for thinking that way. But like I said earlier, it doesn't make it any less tragic. A young man just lost his life, guys.
35 Thompson.
Okay.
Alright, from some workers on the block. They said there was two males in this white car. One of them was shot. Doesn't know where the shooting happened. The males went in a 5520 North Number 6, came back out and then left in the car.
Now for those of you who haven't been online enough to know this guy, his crew and their lives, boy do I have a juicy story for you. Do you remember the rapper that had this infamous video where he is seen digging up his op's grave? Yeah, that one. That's who we are talking about.
Get dirt up. Hey, yo, where the Carney at, yo? Carney, where the you at? Ah!
Apparently for a while, he was really the most hated rapper in Philly. Until his death, he was not only accused of some other rappers, he boasted about this in his music.
Don't get it twisted, bitch. I still pop right out that cut, he out of luck. Caught his ass up when that side, he should've ducked.
So, the popular 25-year-old rapper, who prosecutors say was considered the ringleader of a notoriously violent West Philadelphia-based gang, was shot and Friday afternoon in the city's Olney section, according to law enforcement sources.
We want to get to some breaking news we're following here at 5 o'clock as we take these live images from Chopper 6. It's in Olney, the neighborhood of Philadelphia. Reports of a man has now passed away from a shooting.
Police said the shooting occurred just after 3:30 p.m. on the 5500 block of North 6th Street. Apparently, the rapper was shot multiple times in the chest and right hand and was taken by private vehicle to Einstein Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead at 3:55 p.m.
We're told that a 25-year-old man was shot multiple times in the chest and in his hand, was taken to Albert Einstein Medical Center by a private vehicle.
I mean, this case is so sensitive in Philly that even the source that leaked the details requested anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly about the case yet.
35 Thompson.
Okay.
Alright, from some workers on the block. They said there was two males in this white car. One of them was shot. Doesn't know where the shooting happened. The males went in a 5520 North Number 6, came back out and then left in the car.
According to prosecutors, the rapper was considered the ringleader of the West Philadelphia-based gang called YBC, or Young Bag Chasers. Now, just a few weeks earlier, 22-year-old Quamer Hall, another YBC member and friend to YBC Dul, was arrested at the Criminal Justice Center and charged with the shooting death of a 34-year-old man last year. Known as Mir Pablo, Hall was apparently at the Criminal Justice Center to show support for Arshad Curry, a fellow YBC member who was scheduled to be sentenced for shooting 5 people, 3 fatally, in 2021. If he knew better, he'd have been smart enough to avoid going, because even the Curry they came to support was eventually sentenced to 42.5 to 85 years in prison. But apparently he didn't know better, because he ended up leaving the premises in handcuffs, charged with murder. And get this, Curry's hearing was scheduled in the same room as the sentencing of a man who shot a police officer last year, so the hallway of the 8th floor was literally filled with top police brass. I mean, how much dumber can one get in this situation? This is someone that hours earlier, homicide detectives had issued a warrant for his arrest, pushing out a citywide patrol alert with his photo and the words "wanted." Apparently, 2 officers with the Highway Patrol unit, having seen the alert that morning, recognized Mir Pablo in the crowd and alerted sheriffs to take him into custody, according to Deputy Police Commissioner Frank Vanori. Vanori said Mir Pablo is one of 4 people responsible for the shooting death of King on the 5200 block of West Jefferson Street on July 8, 2023. Evidently, surveillance footage shows that around 2 p.m., as King walked down the block, 4 men in masks and hoodies jumped out of a black Acura and shot him multiple times before fleeing. According to Vanori, the getaway car had been stolen in a gunpoint carjacking on the 3100 block of Hunting Park Avenue earlier that day, a crime that involved a man pointing a gun to a woman's head, then asking her if she wanted to die, before demanding her keys and cell phone. It took the police to recover the car in Mantua, with multiple spent shell casings inside. Now, here's where the juice is. Apparently, some of the most critical information came from an anonymous informant who submitted information telling police that Mir Pablo, alongside 2 other YBC affiliates known as Baby Yop and Yak Yola, was responsible for the shooting. That tip was what led detectives to start monitoring Mir Pablo's Instagram, and in the following weeks, they got to watch a live stream he recorded in which he and a friend sat in a car and flashed guns to the camera. And guess what? The cops later surveyed the 3500 block of Fairmount Avenue in Mantua, where Hall was known to hang out, and hit the jackpot. They found him sitting in a parked car, and right under his seat was a 9mm handgun. One of the weapons that ballistic evidence shows was fired at the scene of King's killing. To make matters worse, Mir Pablo's DNA was also found on the weapon. He was arrested and charged with illegal gun possession. He pleaded guilty to the charge and is scheduled to be sentenced this month. Apparently, cell phone tower data also placed Mir Pablo near the scene of the carjacking and in the general area of the shooting later that day, even though his phone appeared to be powered off at the exact time of the killing. So essentially, in addition to murder, he has been charged with robbery, aggravated and related crimes for his alleged role in the carjacking. Who knows, maybe Mir Pablo really did want to get arrested. After all, they do say that as a gangster sometimes being in prison might just be safer than being out on the streets. There's literally 0 drive-by shooting there, so if you can put up with the occasional shanking attempts, you just might be safe, end quote. He's the latest of a growing list of Philly drill rappers and YBC affiliates charged with Apparently, all of these issues are coming on the heels of 3 other convictions handed to YBC members last year for 2 teens. Now, after Mir Pablo's arrest, YBC Dul posted his photo on his Instagram account, lamenting about another friend locked up. But if only he knew that just a few weeks after, he'd face an even worse fate. So far, the police have reported no arrests in YBC Dul's shooting, and they've been urging anyone with information to contact their homicide unit.
Alright, let's see. Maybe Spanish speakers on the street can give us a hand talking to these fellas.
Do you have any Spanish speaking officers that can take the 55 to Block 6?
But knowing how the streets operate, though, I can't say I'm holding out hopes anyone would be willing to come out with any information. I mean, besides the fact that this guy is apparently well hated in Philadelphia already, no one really wants to be a snitch in these streets. Anyways, let me give you a little more detail on who this guy is. YBC Dul, aka Mr. Disrespect, whose real name is Abdul Qadir Vex, was a 25-year-old Philadelphia-based rapper who was not only part of the Young Bag Chasers YBC collective, but was allegedly their leader. He was born July 5, 1999, and started his music career in the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. His first single, Criminal, was released on April 29, 2022. Now, while he was a talented rapper, YBC Dul mostly gained notoriety in the Philly rap scene due to his involvement in a feud and gang war between his collective, the YBC, and several other rap gang collectives. As we've highlighted earlier, he was the rapper that went viral in February after he shot a video digging up the grave of an opposing rival who had been shot and presumably by his collective.
Turn up. Hey, yo, where the Corny at, yo? Corny, where the you at? Ah!
The video went viral and catapulted Dul to online infamy. Unsurprisingly, that has been one of the most quoted incidents following his death, as many are not too surprised to find out someone finally smoked him. Anyways, YBC Dul and his collective have been involved in a long-running civil war in Philly that is believed to have culminated in the shooting that led to his death on Friday. Now, one of the latest actions pointed out as the immediate cause of Dul's death was what he did and said in a viral interview with Brandon Buckingham, an interview that was uploaded literally literally a day before the rapper ended up being shot in Philly.
My name YBC Dul, but the fans call me Mr. Disrespectful. What they be saying, like, I be trolling, I guess, but I do it to a certain extent, like I go overboard.
This was the interview in which Dul decided to take Buckingham to the war zone, areas where he knows his ops usually are at. He did this knowing fully well that his ops would be watching. Now, to add salt to injury, he also decided to give out the locations where his ops live. Now, if that's not calling out for a war, I don't know what else could be. I know we are not supposed to ridicule the dead, but all of this just seems so ill-advised, to be mild. Anyways, it was in that same interview that YBC Dul revealed that the name YBC was coined in 2017 by Baby Con and J100, two other associates. The group apparently started out as a collective simply chasing the bag, as it were, in the mean streets of Philly. Eventually, they formed a subset called YFA, which was supposed to be for younger boys. Talk about indoctrination. Anyways, after a couple of years mainly sticking to their original mission, the group got pulled into a never-ending cycle of violence, revenge, and more violence when one of their teen members was killed. On May 29, 2019, at 1:40 p.m. near 42nd Street in Mantua Avenue, Joshua David Munson, also known as YBC Josh, was gunned down in broad daylight as he walked down the sidewalk near his home. The gunman was never caught, and the pain that Josh's passing caused his friends in YBC had them wanting to get street justice for their fallen friend. 10 months later, YBC allegedly struck back. At around 5:10 p.m. in March of 2020, a 19-year-old man by the name of Nafi Hawkins AKA Buddy was playing a game of pickup basketball when he was struck multiple times in his legs and torso. He was pronounced dead 12 minutes later, with nobody on the scene willing to give police a description of the shooter. Despite that, many people still believe the shooting was revenge exacted by YBC Dul and his associates for the death of Josh. But like I said before, it wasn't just people saying these things. Apparently, this was also confirmed in YBC Dul's first single, Criminal, where he bragged about smoking Buddy out the **Key King Pound.
Even in the first song that Dul released, you can hear him saying he is, quote, smoking Buddy out the pound.
I'm smoking Buddy out the pound, he hit right.
Now the problem with that is that it began a pattern of Dul mostly bragging about his group's gun violence in his music, and it eventually culminated in his taking things to a whole other level by digging up a grave. Of course, the cycle of shooting and counter-shootings leading to more gun violence continued. Now, according to Buckingham, Dul claimed responsibility for 8 murders in just 2021, as well as more since then, so it's not really surprising seeing that his body count and disrespectful attitude made several rival collectives to form a super collective to come after him. In fact, the fact that YBC Dul survived for this long is a testimony. With how much people came to hate and talk about him, you'd expect he'd be dead by now. But apparently his luck finally ran out Friday, as his ops eventually took him out. Anyways, back to the group, you'd notice the tragedy of their life with just a glance. So far, out of the most notable members of YBC and their synonymous subset YFA, 19 of the 31 most prominent members are either dead or incarcerated. Now that's just too high a risk for any membership, if you ask me. What even makes all of this so sad is that, like we highlighted earlier, for the first 2 years of YBC's existence, they actually mostly stuck to getting money in the streets. And it wasn't until the start of summer 2019 that the horrible cycle of violence first emerged. Not long after the passing of Buddy, 2 YBC members were allegedly involved in a shootout near 38th Street. Multiple people were hit in this attack, one of them being Sid from 39th Street, an OPP. Sid survived his injuries, and since the streets have a no snitching policy, it wouldn't be long before he exacted his own form of justice. In September 2020, Sid claimed to be responsible for the shooting of a man named B, another alleged YBC associate. The man was shot in the head multiple times while he was riding his bike on the 900 block of Belmont Avenue around 9:30 p.m. He was pronounced dead at the scene. After this, YBC was out for blood. On January 16, 2021, a 15-year-old named Jaquan Williams, aka Q Raw, was walking near 40th and Cambridge Streets when 2 suspects shot him in the head. He was literally on his way to the store when this happened. Of course, true to form, YBC claimed this by mocking him in their songs, calling him Kizzy I instead of his real name. But apparently that was still not enough for them. YBC still wanted to get back and specifically wanted to get vengeance on Sid. On March 18, 2021, they were allegedly given false information that Sid was being released from prison that evening. And do you know what these guys apparently did? They allegedly went to shoot up another young man. They shot 20-year-old Rodney Hargrove near the prison around midnight, thinking that he was Sid. Now you'd think that'll make them stop. But these guys were just getting started. This accident would not stop them. In fact, it didn't even slow them down. In May of 2021, they caught Sid outside his house and let off a barrage of shots, striking his 6-year-old sister instead of him. Can you imagine what could possess anyone to shoot at a 6-year-old, guys? Frankly, that's just disgusting.
It's disgusting yet again that I'm here speaking to you about a 6-year-old getting shot.
Anyways, Sid still survived the incident and his family decided to move across town to Port Richmond to evade the violence. But remember my point about these guys not even being interested in letting up one bit? Yeah, they didn't stop at all. Apparently, Sid's days were already numbered. Around 8:15 p.m. on the 2900 block of Wheel Street in the city's Port Richmond section, 2 shooters approached Sid's house and fired 8 shots into his home, striking him and his father. His dad survived, but 39th Street Sid passed away from his wounds. Remember the YBC Curry we spoke about earlier? The one that Mayor Pablo was arrested when he went to show support for him in court. Yeah, this was how he was arrested. YBC Curry was found hiding under a car on the scene, and when police approached him, began firing at them until he was ultimately arrested and booked for the murder of Sid as well as a previous murder. Following Sid's murder, YBC Dul started mocking him routinely on Wax. Rapping in Best Pack alongside Eamstax and J10, the rapper said, "Mix the fro with the stripe that shiastrist hard. It got me tripping." Now it might not make sense to you how he brought Sid in, until you find out that Sid's nickname was Fro. This was by no means the end of the violence surrounding YBC though. On May 25th around 7:30 p.m., an 18-year-old man named Nasir Marks was shot multiple times on the 3900 block of Poplar Street in the city's Mantua section.
His name is Nasir Marks. He's not just some 18-year-old black male that was shot. His name is Nasir Marks.
His family was making him shirts for his upcoming graduation when they got the phone call. 30 minutes later, 32 shots were also fired at a 15-year-old boy named Kanye Pittman on the 2500 block of North Seenham Street. 5 shots struck him and he was pronounced dead at the hospital. And that wasn't the end. Reek 1200 from YBC went on to brag about the killing soon after. I wish I could say the reign of terror in Philadelphia was over, but on July 21st, 2021, 16-year-old Kaylin Johnson and 18-year-old Tommy Frazier, also known as Snipe, were murdered in their vehicle while they were on their way to play basketball.
What am I supposed to do when he calls the casket? I just want everybody to know my son was a good kid, everyone loved.
Earlier this month, YBC Curry went to court for these murders and was found guilty. His defense argued Curry became a victim of his surroundings after his family moved from Germantown to West Philadelphia, saying the murder of Curry's father and brother when he was a child left him traumatized. But of course you can't really expect that to be any excuse. The jury found him guilty of the murders and sent him away for 42.5 to 85 years. Now, after Tommy Frazier's death, you'd always hear YBC Dul persistently mocking him in his songs. Of course, all of these murders and disrespectful lyrics made the city hate YBC, and soon all of the enemies they made would join up to form a supergroup called CCK.
These murders and disrespectful lyrics made the city hate YBC, and soon, all of the enemies they made would click up to form a supergroup called CCK.
CCK consists of campers O to the 4, clappers from 56th Street, as well as clappers with a K from 7th Street. But it wasn't just them. 39th Street also joined up with 44th Street because of the murders of Sid and Kanye Pittman, and because of the murder of Buddy. They also had enemies on 59th Street. This basically meant that YBC was literally surrounded by ops all over the city. Don't forget YBC was already claiming responsibility for 8 murders in 2021 alone. So it doesn't take a genius to imagine what could happen to these guys after these other groups were formed. Between 2021 and now, J100, the founder of YBC, was shot and killed. Reek 1200 was arrested for 2 homicides facing 35 years to life, while F5 is currently serving a 12-year prison sentence. YBC Curry is currently serving multiple life sentences, while Doe Fetty, YBC Dul's cousin, was shot and killed. 1K Baby Wick is in jail on conspiracy to murder charge, while Mayor Pablo is locked up, and Yakola is on Philly's most wanted fugitive list. Money-making Tio was murdered, Baby CA was shot and killed, Kier was gunned down, Peso is incarcerated, FS DeBender is on house arrest, and now YBC Dul has joined the list of the dead. It really is a tragedy.